Welcome back, guys. In this section, I'll be taking you through the several sections we have in the element builder. Just click on this tab here and you should see something like this. Okay, so right now this is an empty elements builder, and to get started, to create an element, just click on this add new button. But before we go further, what we are going to be building as an example in this section is a star rating element. So it will be a component where users can interact with the star rating component. They are able to get values depending on what they have clicked. Okay, so if user clicks on 2 stars, they get a value of 2. Now I've chosen to use this example because it goes through every section in the element builder. So let's get started. I'm just going to click on new elements here and just call it star rating. Okay, so after creating that, you should see a screen like this. Now note that you can create more than one element, but in our case we just want that star rating element, so I've created that. So now I'll be going through these sections one by one and give explanations as to what they do. Okay, this blue text here represents each section. It represents a section. So I'm just going to start from the general properties. Now, general properties has fields like name, visual element, and icon. Now, this is the name your users will see within the bubble editor. You can either choose if it's going to be a visual element or an input form. Now, in this case, we are not building an input form. It's a visual element. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that, and you just choose a related icon. Since we are building a star rating element, so we just have to look for a star icon. Okay, so let's move further to the bubble properties here. Now these properties will be accessible to your users when they are using your plugin, and these are properties like resizable, responsive, background, borders, padding, box shadows, and others. Now, clicking this is allowing them to have these options. For instance, do you want these elements to be resizable? Do you want it to be responsive, have a background, or have background features like background color and stuff like that? Borders like border radius or stroke and other options. Do you want them to be able to add padding, shadows, or change font style? Now, I think only two applies to what we are building here, which is we want it to be resizable and we want it to be responsive. Now, we don't care about background here because the stars itself, we have dynamic background depending on what the users have imputed. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it to that. Note that you can enable any of this depending on the context of your plugin. Also, you can choose to make this element fit width to content or make this element fit height to content. Now, this doesn't apply to what we are building, so I'm just going to leave that unchecked. And also, this supports over and press state. We don't really need this in this scenario. Okay, we are not uploading any files here, so we don't need this one. All right, but this is just to take you through what is available and what you can do. Now the next section will be the default dimensions. Now this will be the dimension your element will be as soon as it is dropped on the page. So right now we have a width of 400 and height of 200. I'm just going to leave it like that. The next one is fields. Now These fields will be shown in the property editor and users will be able to use them to customize elements. Now we'll go into more details when we start building out the plugin itself. So expose state is just a way to enable your users have access to certain values within your element. Okay, so you get to define them here. So for instance, let's say you have a plugin where users can add two numbers and get a result. Now you can choose to expose that result in your element so users will be able to access it. Okay, we also have events. Now events are triggers that fire when certain things happen in your element plugin. Now you get to define when these events should fire. So for instance, say when a user clicks on the star rating plugin, you want something to happen. Maybe you want a toast notification to show. So this way your users can attach actions to these events. Element actions. So these are actions you can attach to your plugin. For instance, in the star rating scenario, you want your users to be able to clear their rating after giving a rating. You can attach the clear action to this plugin so users will be able to clear whatever rating they have imputed initially. Okay, so we have the element code section, and within the element code section we have some code editors here, and these code editors do different things. The header section, say you need to apply some code on your page. Okay, you'd add those code here. It could be JavaScript code and it could be CSS. Now you can add any code here provided you want to be able to access this code within the page. I would go into more details. Now initialize. This is called once per instance of the element when the element gets visible on the page. In essence, any code you put here is run just once after page load. Okay, the next one is update. Now this is a bit different from initialize. Now initialize runs once per instance after page load, but updates, this is called whenever a field or a field value changes. That is, anytime something changes in your code, this updates code runs. Okay, so as many times as something changes within your code, maybe a value changes or something like that, this code runs again. We'll go into more details on this. We also have preview. Now, preview is what your users see when they drop your plugin on the page. Okay, and this could either be a simple preview or a complex preview. I'll go into more details as to how you can build out your previews. Okay, before we wrap up this section, I just want you to focus on the left here. So these are just hyperlinks that takes you to several sections here. Okay, so you can either choose to scroll and find your section or just click on any of these hyperlinks here. So for instance, I click on events, then I'm taken to the events section. Okay, so with that being said, I will see you in the next lesson. Welcome back, guys. So before we proceed to the fun section, which is actually building out the plugin, we would have to do some environmental setup. So right now I have cursor open here and my bubble plugin editor. Okay, so the first thing we want to do here is to create a file where we are going to be storing our code locally. So it's more like showing cursor a directory where we are going to be storing the code. So right now I've created a file on my desktop, and I just call it star rating. So you can do the same thing depending on what plugin you are building. So just create a folder, an empty folder, and just give it a name. So I've done that. So right now I'm just going to click on file here and say open folder, desktop, and look for that folder here. Just click on it and select folder. Now after doing that, you will see a screen like this. Here we have the directory, and this is where the code is going to be displayed after being generated by the agent. So quickly, I just want to take you through a few things here. This is the chat section. This is where you get to prompt the agent to build your plugin. Okay, and here I want us to make use of Sonnet 4.5 for our initial prompting. Subsequently, we would switch to Composer 1. Okay, but for the initial prompting, we make use of Sonnet 4.5 because it's just smarter than the rest of the agents. Okay, so Sonnet 4.5 for now. Okay. Okay, so that being said, the second setup we have to do now is to set up the agents.md file. And the agents.md file is more like a README file that gives your agent context as to what to build. Now, what is agents.md file? Okay, so you just have to go to agents.md just to read more about it. Okay, but it's a simple format for guiding coding agents used by over 20k open source projects. Okay, so it's more like a standard README file for your agent. Okay, think of agents.md as a README for agents, a dedicated, predictable place to provide the context and instructions to help AI coding agents work on your project. Okay, I think that is really comprehensive enough. So you have to show your agent where to get its context from. Okay, so that being said, we are just going to do that. I'm going to click on this icon here that says new file. I'm going to click that and say agents.md. Okay, so right now it's empty and I need to paste our actual rules within this section here, and the rule will be attached to this lesson. Okay, so ideally what the rule is a huge file that will guide your agents how to build bubble plugins with code examples, with rules, with do's and don'ts. Okay, so we'll find this file on this lesson in the resource section. So I'm just going to copy it and just get it out of the way for now and paste the content here. Okay, so after pasting the content, all good, just close it down here. So that's the second setup we have to do. Okay, so and the last environmental setup is to make sure BubbleSoft is available, activated, and handy. Okay, so just to circle back, the first thing we did was to show cursor a directory where it should store the code, which is the star rating file. The second thing we did was to create agents.md, and the third thing we did was to make sure BubbleSoft is handy and ready to use. So with that being said, I will see you in the next lesson. Okay guys, the fun part, which is actually building the plugin. So I just want you to navigate to the general tab. click on this upload here to upload an icon, and it's going to be uploaded. That's the first thing to do. We already gave it a name. We'll talk about description and this later before we publish. Okay, so next thing is to have a test app. So right now I have an empty test app. So it is advisable to have a test app when you are building your plugin. Okay, so I just created a fresh new app, and what you want to do is to copy the ID of the app. So the ID is after the equal to and before the and sign. So mine is course app 48401. I'm just going to copy that, head back to my bubble plugin editor and go to elements. And I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here where it says app to test the plugin. So click it and paste that ID and click on go to test app. Okay, so what this is just going to do is to navigate to that test app and make sure it is installed within that test app. Okay, so it is loaded now, and to confirm just go to plugins and you'd see it here. Okay, and it will have this testing flag here. And then now let's head to cursor. Okay, so right now we have our agents.md only, and agents.md is able to guide our agent as to what to build. Okay, so I'm just going to prompt. Okay, so now I have entered my prompt and I'm just going to read it out. So I need to build a star rating interactive plugin with the following properties: color, initial rating, size, which will be an option set, maybe small, medium, or large. Now, enum is just a technical name for options. Okay. Also, I want to have one published state, which is current rating. Okay. Also, I want us to trigger an event when the value is changed. That is when the user clicks on the element to change the value of the rating. I want this value updated event to be fired. Okay. Also, I need to be able to clear or reset the rating with instance.data.clear. I'll give more explanation to this very soon. Make sure this function is globally accessible. Based on experience, this has happened several times where the agent puts the code in a place where it's not really accessible, and then I'll have to prompt it to make it accessible globally. So create only two files, which is style.css and updates.js. Do not create any other file. So style.css will store the styles of the elements like the color and stuff like that, and updates.js will store the logic. Make sure it's in Sonnet 4.5 and click on this one to prompt it. Okay, so my agent is done generating the code and the two files I've asked. Okay, we have the style.css and it has formatted it based on the rules in agents.md. Also, we have the updates.js. Okay, and I'm just going to click on keep all here. That is to commit all the changes. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to quickly hop into my plugin editor, open BubbleSoft. So right now I have two code here, which is style.css, which will go into the header section, and updates.js, which will go into the update section. For this plugin, we don't need initialize, right? We only need just the CSS, which will go into the headers and the updates. So I'm just going to feed BubbleSoft that directory, that is the directory of these two files here. And I'll just do that once and then start syncing my code afterwards. So I'm going to click on this here, find the star written folder and find style.css. Okay, so that has been uploaded, and then look for update and then just select it, and that's it. So once I click on this sync all, my code here will be synced into the appropriate section within my plugin editor. So I'm just going to click on sync all, and then the code is synced. Okay, so after then you don't have to be on this screen anymore. We can switch to agent, since we are sure that for now we are only making use of updates and style.css. So instead of this editor, let's just switch to agents. So we have more space and everything just looks cleaner here. Okay, so let's hop back into the plugin editor and just see what the agent has generated. Okay, so this is getting on the way. So you can just click on this minimize here to minimize it and just put it somewhere here. And we don't even need to maximize it if we don't need to add more files. Okay, so once we make an update here, okay, depending on which file was changed, if it's the CSS file, you click on the H. If it's the update, you click on the U. If both files were changed, you can click on this to update both code. Okay, so that being said, this looks good, but let's check the update code. Now, to get more space, you can click here to enter full screen mode. Okay, so now I'm on full screen mode, and I just want to check if the agent has created the properties and other things I told it to do. So right now it has created the property, which is properties.color, properties.initial rating, and properties.size, where I can pass in small, medium, or large. Okay, so right here it says small is 24 pixels, medium 32, and large is 48, which is fine. So here, update the current rating if initial rating property changed. So this is where it added the published states. Okay, and the last thing to check is the trigger events. Okay, so if you can't if you're looking for a code and you can't really find it fast, just click on Ctrl F on your keyboard to bring out the search, the browser search. Just search for trigger events. Okay, here it is here. So now it's triggering this event, which is value updated. So looks like the agent got everything we wanted it to do in one goal, but we need to do a few setup here. Now the code has been generated, but we need to feed it into the elements. So right now, if I just go to the design tab, okay, and find the elements here, which is this star rating element, and just drop it on my page, you notice that I don't have any fields to input anything, like the initial value, the color, the size. There's no way to do that. I can't also access any published states. Okay, so I just have the default, which is width, height, visible, isn't visible. I'm supposed to have the current rating state here. Okay, and the reason we don't have that is because we've not defined it. So we have to define it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to define the fields, the property fields. And we have three of them, which is color, initial rating, and size. Guys, note that this is case sensitive. Let me just scroll down here. So we have color, initial rating, and size. So it has to be the same thing. So I'm just going to copy it. So just to avoid error, I'm just going to copy those variable names. Okay, of course I could type it, but then just to minimize error. Okay, so I'm just going to paste the first one, which is color. Okay, so that has been created. I'm going to make this a dynamic value. It is a dynamic value, and the type of dynamic value it is a text. Okay, the next one is initial rating. Okay, okay, and initial rating is a number, but I'm going to make it a dynamic value so that the user can enter these values dynamically. And then the type will be a number. And the last one will be size. Okay, so click on create field, and this is going to be a drop down. Okay, so remember it's a drop down. We have small, medium, large. Okay, so we're just going to feed in that. And here, when you click on drop down, it says you should separate the choices using comma. Okay, so now I have small, medium, and large. Okay, and I'm just going to make the default medium. Right, so we are done with the property fields. Let's scroll down to the exposed state. We have just one exposed state, which is called current rating. Okay, so I'm just going to type that in and make sure it's the same thing. Current underscore rating, and click on create new state. So that has been created, and it's not a text, it's a number. Okay, so the last one is the trigger event, which is value updated. I can just copy that like this and scroll to the event section and paste it here. So make sure there are no stray spaces, or else you are going to get an error. I'm just going to do that. Okay, so just to make it beautiful on the user facing side, now the names must be the same as what you have in the code, which is this, case sensitive names here, because they are actually variables. So they must match what you have in the code. But for caption, you can beautify this because it's just user facing. So instead of having this casing like this, and have something like, and then for size, you can just capitalize this too, just for it to look good. All right. You can do same thing for caption, but for caption, I just usually leave it as small letters, and same thing for the caption for the event. All right. So right now we've been able to set up the properties, which is color, initial rating, size, the properties, current rating. We've been able to set up the triggered events, which is value updated. So we'll face this very soon, but let's just see what we have right now before adding the clear action. So note that when you change something on the plugin, you have to reload the page. You have to reload the page, else it won't show up. So it doesn't show up automatically. You have to reload your page before it shows up. So I'm just going to do that. Reload the page. So right now my page is loaded and you can see we have color just as we have defined it. Okay, initial rating, size, and you can see the casing that we've given the as we have given it here in the caption. Okay, so we have these three here. Okay, for color, instead of making color a text, okay, I'm going to make it a color instead. I'll just click on this dynamic value here and choose color. Choose color, and let's give it a default. Let's give it this golden yellow kind of color, like this. Yeah, I think this is fine. And then when you make a change like that, you have to reload again. Okay, so now I have it showing up as a color field now instead of a text field. So for the initial rating, I'm going to give it a value of 2. And for size, we leave it as medium. Okay. And right now, you will notice we are able to access this star rating, current rating too. Remember, we're able to access only the width, height, visible, not visible, which is just the default bubble element state. But right now we have this state exposed here, which is current rating. We're going to make use of that later. So I'm just going to delete that now. Okay, so now let's preview. Just click on this one to preview. Okay, so now we preview it and it's not displaying, which is good. Now when that happens, just click on F12 to open up the developer tools, and you will see the reason it's not working. You'd see a couple of errors here, and here is just telling us a bunch of things. Instance.canvas.appendChild is not a function, and stuff like that. No need to stress on this. Just copy everything here, okay, within the error section. Right click, copy visible styled section, go back to the agent and say something like, I have an error upon initialization, and just paste that error here and just enter. Okay, so now the agent has been able to fix it. Okay, and just click on keep all. I'm going to click on this button here and the code will be synced, and I'm go back to my preview, reload the page, and you see it's now showing up. So when you have errors like that, go to the developer tools, copy the error and feed it back to the agent. After feeding it to the agent, synchronize your code using BubbleSoft, and that should fix it. Okay, so right now we have the star rating now, and it's working really fine. In fact, it even added some beautiful subtle animation. Okay, so you can just click on it and then it gets updated. Now let's see if the state is working really fine. So to check if the state is working fine, I'm just going to get a text and put it here and refer to the plugin, which is star rating, current rating, and let's see if the number gets updated. So I'm just going to reload. Okay, so this is the initial value. So let's click on this and it's updated to 3. If I click on this, it's updated to 5. It's updated to 1. Now let's check if the trigger event is also working. Okay, so to check that, I'm just going to install a toast notification plugin just to trigger a toast when the value is changed. So I'm going to add a plugin and I'm going to choose this one by Minimum Studio here. Just install that and I'll just go back to my workflow and set up an event here. So I'll look for the event we've attached to that plugin, which is star rating value updated. Okay, and I'm going to toast. And I'm just going to make it appear on the top center. All right, so I'm going to reload my page and let's just see if the event is also working. So I'm going to click on 3 and you see success working. That is, the event is actually working. So you can attach anything to that event. Okay, now let's attach the action. Okay, so now we need to create a new action, which is clear. So once you do that and scroll all the way down, you will notice a new code editor has been created here. Okay, and then after that, we have to copy this function we have defined in the code to clear the current state of the plugin and just paste it here. Don't forget to put your semicolon. So what is this code doing? This code is accessing the instance object. Okay, within that it is looking into the data and just clearing it. Okay, so we've defined the function that clears the current state of that plugin within the code here. So within this code here, so we just need to call it here. Okay, so note that clear is just the variable name we give to that function, so it could be anything. Okay, but this is constant, instance dot data is constant, and this could be anything. So just make sure it aligns with what you have within your code. Okay, so now we need to reload. Okay, so after reloading, I need to add a button to the page, give it a label called clear, and then attach a workflow to it and look for that action by just typing it. Okay, okay, so now the page has been reloaded. I'm going to just give it a value and click on it, and as you can see, it is cleared and it's now 0. I'm going to give it a value of 5 and clear it again. So the action is working, the state is working, and the trigger event is also working. So guys, give it a try and I will see you in the next lesson. Welcome back, guys. Now let's learn how to make this preview look a bit better. So by default, you have this here because we don't have a preview code. So right now we have an update code, but here we don't have a preview code. So when the preview code section is empty, the implication is that we have something like this. So this is just how Bubble represents the empty preview code. Okay, just telling us no plugin preview available, and it doesn't really look good. You don't want your users to see this. So there are 3 ways to add a preview. The first one is just to make it invisible. Okay, sometimes your plugin doesn't need a preview, especially if you are building a programmatic plugin that just runs some code that doesn't really need any visuals. You want to make it invisible. There's also something I call the small preview, just a little preview that gives your user an idea of what your plugin does. And also it just makes it look better visually. And the third one is the interactive preview. Okay, that is more advanced. Your users can actually interact with that preview. Okay, so we start with the first one, which is to make this thing invisible. Okay, and the trick is just to add any code, any JavaScript code that runs here. Okay, it could be a simple console log code, and I'm just going to do that now. So I'm just going to say console.log, and I'm just going to be logging empty. Okay, so just make sure it's a valid JavaScript code, and it doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to render anything. So right now, if I reload the page, okay, so right now the page is loaded, and you can see that that gray default placeholder is gone. Now we have a transparent preview. And the second one is the small preview. Okay, before then, I just want us to navigate to the shared tab in the plugin editor. Just click on this shared and scroll down to this shared assets here. Now here we're just going to be uploading a 20 by 20 pixels picture. Okay, so I'm going to click on upload and upload it. Okay, so here I have a small star image here, which is just 20 by 20 pixels. I'm going to click on it. I'm just going to give it a name, call it small star. I'm going to click on save assets. Now once you save that asset, it is saved on Bubble CDN, and then you'll be given this link here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this link. I just clicked on it to copy it, so it's on my clipboard. Now I will head to cursor and just start a new chat here. Now I'm just going to tell the agent to generate a small preview. Now note that the agent already has a context of what a small preview is, because it's already defined here within the rules file, our agent.md. Okay, so that's why it has that context. Okay, so I'm just going to close this again. Okay, so guys, I have written my prompt, and what I just said is create a file called preview.js and place a small display code within it. Use this URL as the image source. That is the URL I copied from here. Okay, and I'm just going to tell it not to create another file, because sometimes it tends to do that. So do not create another file. Okay, I'm just going to enter this prompt. While that is happening, I'm going to switch back to Elements and scroll down to the preview and remove this here. Okay, so now it has generated the preview.js. Okay, so I'm just going to look at it, and here's the code here. And I'm just going to click on keep all. I'm going to open my bubble source here, find the preview code, which is this one, and just keep it here like this. Okay, so because I have just one file now, I just have this sync icon here. All right, so Looks good, and I'm just going to sync the code. Okay, and right now I have it within my preview section of the plugin editor. And what I'm going to do now is just to reload. Okay, so my page has been reloaded, and you can see that I have this here. Now note that we are using a very big canvas here. Okay, so if you are building a plugin that is just a programmatic plugin that doesn't need a lot of canvas like this, you can just come to the plugin editor here and just say your default dimension should be 20 by 20, which goes in line with what we have in the preview code, because right now the width is 20, the height is 20. So when you do that, you wouldn't have excess canvas. All right, so I'm just going to return it back to what it was, which is 400, 200. All right, so that's how to do a small preview. Okay, and we can also resize it from here by saying 20 by 20. Okay, so it's just a simple small preview. All right, so I'm going to return it back to 400 by 200. Okay, so the last one will be an interactive preview. Okay, so I'm just going to tell the agent. In fact, what I'm going to do is to overwrite what we have here, just to show you what an interactive preview also looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to undo this one. Okay, so I just give it a prompt and say create a file called preview.js of the star rating plugin. Let it have the color, size, and initial value properties too. Okay, so I'm just going to run that. So it's going to create a preview file that is more advanced than what we have here. So while that is running, I'm going to go back to my plugin editor and wait for the agent to be done. Okay, so the agent is done. I'm just going to preview the code, and it looks about right. Okay, I'm going to click on keep all and sync it. Okay, now it has been synced, and I'm just going to reload. Okay, so the page has been reloaded, and let's just check if it works. Okay, so I'll change this to purple. Okay, it's not updating. I'm going to change initial value to 4. Let's see if that works. No. Let me change this to large. Same thing, it's not working. So what we have to do now, I think I can spot the problem already, but I'm just going to tell the agent what is going on. Now, if you look closely to this place, we have variable name called star size, star color, star count, initial value. But if you check the update code, they don't correlate with what we have here. Now, in the update code, we just have color, initial value, size, right? There's nothing like star color, star size, and stuff like that. All right, so we just have to correct the agent to correct that. Okay. Okay, now, so this is the prompt I'm giving to the agents to iterate on. So changing the properties does not seem to affect the appearance of the preview. Make sure the properties have the same variable name as the ones in I tagged updates.js. Okay, so the ones in updates.js only. Do not add an additional property. Okay, so I'm just going to send that in. Okay, so right now I think it has been fixed, and I'm just going to click on keep all. And if you look closely here, we have properties.color, initial rating, size, and that's the same thing we have here. Color, initial rating, size. So that should be correct now. So I'm just going to sync the code. Okay, and I'm going to reload. Okay, so after reloading, you can see what we have here. It has been corrected. So that was the issue. So if I choose another color now, say green, okay, you see we have the color updating. Let's choose 1 star. Okay, we have 1 star. Let's go to small, and then we have small display. Okay, so sometimes the agent might not come up with what you want in the first shot. You just have to look into it and report back to the agent, and it's going to fix it. Sometimes it does it once and that's it. So just to circle back, we were able to learn how to create 3 types of preview. The first one is the invisible preview. The second one is the small preview, and the third one is the interactive preview, like this one. I will see you in the next lesson.